Welcome to Comic Books for the Win. My name is Andre.
I'm Will.
And we're here at Carsley's Comics. We're going to discuss our favorite characters.
That's right.
Mine's Spider-Man.
Mine's Batman, as you can tell from our shirts.
Yes. And we're here to finally settle the greatest question: who is the best superhero? We're going to start off with, and we already talked about this before, sometimes it's the villain makes the hero.
I agree.
I totally agree too. But we could also say the lack of coolness of the villains can also make the hero, or destroy a hero's reputation for that matter. So, for example, Batman, throughout its incredible 70-year span, has gathered a huge gallery of villains. That is nothing to argue against. However, many of them are subpar. I think Batman is more quantity than quality when it comes to villains. Don't get me wrong, they got some pretty cool ones. Joker, Penguin, can't argue that.
Two-Face.
No.
Ra's al Ghul, Bane.
Not really. So they got the Kite-Man. You got Crazy Quilt. I mean, these two guys, first of all, Kite-Man, I find that just the cheesiness made Batman cheesy by forcing Batman to chase him in the air using a kite and not the Batwing, or the bat plane at the time, or whatever it was. And then there was Crazy Quilt, who I don't even know why they even had him. It was some sort of acid trip in the 60s when they used him. They have Rainbow Creature. Mm-hmm. They have Killer Moth. It has like a huge list of just these horrible characters.
Well, Andre, see, I love how your angle to defeating Batman was showing how crappy Batman was. And thus, obviously, Spider-Man's better because he's not as crappy. But see, I'm not going to go that route because I don't care about Spider-Man. Instead, I'm way more positive. I actually find Batman awesome. I'll tell you what I love about him. I love how accessible he is. If you look at the best graphic novels there are out there, you've got Watchmen, Mouse, Dark Knight Returns, Killing Joke. Two of those are Batman. If someone wants to read comics, I just give them The Killing Joke, or Hush, or Long Halloween. Very accessible, very popular, iconic, easy to understand, simple past, and I love how he's adaptable through like a whole scope of mediums. People can just watch his movies. They always work really well. I love how his certain era, which is the 1940s where it was done, keeps getting referred, and it's never lame, it's always used well. For example, Tim Burton actually used the fact that it was from the 40s. So when you watch his movies, you never really know what era it is. It has a very nice timelessness to it. And I mean, I know Raimi tried to recapture that in the 60s with Spider-Man's movies, but they just didn't work. It was either too cheesy and it wasn't happening, it was too tough. But Burton pulls it off very well with those films. And he's also adaptable for current films too, as we know from the Nolan trilogy. The Batman TV show was excellent. The one from the 90s when we were kids.
Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It had the whole idea of what was it? It was like Art Deco and noir style. So it had a great neo-noir kind of idea. He's also very versatile. You can have a story about detectives. So it could just be a straight-up detective story, which is very fun. Or you can have a story where it's a bit more fantastical. And the fact that, there was a silly era of his life, like the 60s, where he did find the Rainbow Creature. What's fun is that you're able to use that for later stories. For example, Grant Morrison decided to say that whole era is because after defeating people like Scarecrow and Joker all the time, he was stuck with all these gas and he would start getting hallucinations. So you're able to use this part of Batman and just show this whole tapestry of this character, what he's got to offer. So it's a lot of fun to go through. And you can be adaptable to all cross places, and he's extremely accessible.
And I'm glad that you so mentioned about The Killing Joke as a graphic novel. That out of was it 2 out of 5 that you mentioned were Batman?
Sure.
Now, I feel horrible for the person that you would be offering these comic books. You know, I'll tell you why. These are amazing graphic novels. Don't get me wrong. You should definitely pick these up. These are great. However, it's a trap, as Admiral Akbar would once said. What happens is you're going to be in for a trick where you say, oh, this is amazing. I got to start reading backstories. Don't. Whatever you do, don't. And this is what he said even. He went back to the 40s and 50s, and those were good stories. They had like origin stories. But then, as you said,
the 60s
and
weird.
70s are horrible.
No, 70s are good.
And I'll tell you why they're horrible. For example, there was in the issues of 147 Batman, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, and Robin were fighting these gangsters, and he got transformed into a baby with the brain, an adult brain of Bruce Wayne. His choice was not to wait it out or find a cure for while, you know,
But it was
Robin.
the fight. It was the
He
fight.
chose to be Bat Baby.
Yeah.
So he's the little child, and oh my God, he was a chubby little dork. He looked like he had like baby fat, and it was ugly to look at. And he was getting carried around by Robin. And the funny and sad part of it is, he still beat the gangsters as a child.
He's got Batman's brain.
Which means the gangsters weren't that great to begin with. The villains, they're not that great.
No.
So, I mean, that was like the most ridiculous issue I've ever came across on a superhero level.
It's fine.
That I find not so super. Also, he has one thing that Spider-Man doesn't, and this is a good thing. Partners. A lot of partners are consistent. Robin 2.0, Jason
Alfred.
Todd. The ones who are really like in there, and that's the Robin. Spider-Man doesn't need that really. He has occasionally grouped
Like
up with
Alpha?
people. Alpha, he could beat everyone together, even Superman if you really want to. But that's a separate debate if we really want to get to. But also, Spider-Man, unlike Batman, when he does team up, most of the people that he do hook up with, they're not embarrassing to be. For example, Batmite. Batmite. He is this mite, little creature from another dimension, who
The fifth dimension, which is imagination.
Yeah, it had to be imagination, or
Yes.
what Batman was smoking at the time. And he joins up. As well, another character is interesting, was Ace,
The Bat Hound.
the Bat Hound.
Yeah.
And at one point, at first...
mysteries.
Yeah, well...
Like Sherlock Holmes also had a dog.
Or Scooby-Doo.
But Andre, it doesn't have to be heroic. Back then they were writing comics for kids. If you don't want to read them, you never have to. Nobody's forcing you to read them. If I give you The Killing Joke and you're like, I want to read more, look up online. Best Batman stories to read. You're not going to go for the 60s. Anyways, how did you come across those?
It's pretty funny.
You have to
Thank
look
you,
into
Internet.
it. You have to,
Thank you.
look into it, right, like you did. But one thing though, Andre, do you have any other points? Because right now, all your points were just Batman in the 60s was kind of corny. The TV show kind of told you already.
It's like the Titanic kind of sank.
No, that's
So, Bruce Wayne is part of the 1%.